Demonze, the Cypher. Prepare for another all-nighter.
On the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
We're everywhere. And we were at the Velvet Lounge just past Tuesday night doing a Bulls watch party for the opener. That wasn't so great, but we'll get into all that at 10 o'clock. But right now, we're going to bring in our man Demonze and do this Around the League thing.
All right, y'all, it's about that time. It's time for Around the League. I am your moderator, Demonze Spruill. You can follow me on Twitter at DEMONZE1. That's Demonze1. One more time for y'all, DEMONZE, the number one. Demonze one. I'm number one. All right, let's go ahead and hop into these games, y'all. First game, we got to start off in the NFC North. That's right, Dallas 27, Minnesota 23. Christian Ponder 25 for 37. 236 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He had Tony Romo on the upside, 34 for 51, 337 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Adrian Peterson did his thing as usual, 140 yards, 1 touchdown. And you had Jason Witten really get down, 102 yards and 1 touchdown. Dallas came back. It was kind of, not came back, but it was kind of a close game for Faruq. But Dallas was able to pull it out and beat those Vikings.
Yeah, Tony Romo had the bad start to that fourth quarter throwing a pick, but then he wound up kind of being the hero with his touchdown pass at the end. A lot of things he gets criticized for. He wound up saving the game at the end for the Cowboys. Cowboys are in first place at 5-4. Wow, that NFC East is just a mess, a terrible mess, and nothing good about what's going on in that division. Sounds like you want to say something worse than that. Yeah, I could have, but I want to stay on the air. Don't you mind?
Refrain. Yeah. Hold it back. It was one of those kind of games where. Here's what's crazy about the entire Minnesota situation. They're 1-8. There's nothing that's going to happen from this point moving forward that's going to make them be in the playoffs. So now what they're stuck with is trying to figure out if Ponder is going to be the quarterback they're going to go with next year. They bring in Josh Freeman, who underperformed, but that was to be expected because he didn't know their system. And I have to say, for the last 2 weeks, today was probably the best that Ponder has looked the entire time he has started for the Vikings.
Wow.
And that's not saying a lot. I'm just saying, I'm not saying he's a good quarterback. I'm not saying he's necessarily a starter, but this is the best he's looked. And it makes me question, when you put a quarterback in the position of having to earn their job, does it change the way they perform? And the fact that he had to go through being replaced by Castle, they bring in Freeman, they put the pressure on him, which is something he really hasn't had with the Vikings organization. Now, on the flip side, I think the Vikings defense had an excellent game today. They gave good pass rush. That's what kept them in the game when it was all said and done. They faltered in the fourth quarter with 2 minutes left. They got a turnover. The offense was not able to actually monopolize, even get 3 points out of it, and Tony Romo gets a chance to live another day. But that game, ultimately, the Vikings, this sounds crazy, they dominated that game.
But joining us now to preview the big Monday Night Football game tomorrow in Green Bay between the Bears and the Packers is Sun-Times writer Mark Potash. What's going on tonight, Mark?
Not much. How you guys doing?
Pretty good. Now, the Bears have a lot of injury questions going into tomorrow's game against Green Bay, who seems to be getting right at the right time now with their play.
Yeah, it's bad timing for the Bears, actually. The Packers have had some injuries, but they've just filled in for them without missing a beat because when you have Aaron Rodgers, you can do that kind of thing. The Bears, on the other hand, they've got they're going to be taking their chances, I guess, with Josh McCown at quarterback and Kasim Green playing for Lance Briggs on defense, and a defense that's already hurting. They have a much bigger uphill climb on Monday night, especially playing in a primetime game at Lambeau Field. It's really a tough chore. I think it'll tell us a real lot about this coaching staff and how well they can prepare and do kind of the Packer thing and make up for some pretty big holes on offense and defense.
So going into Green Bay, obviously they have a dimension for them that they haven't had in a while, which is an excellent running game. How do you feel the Bears are going to be able to defend against this? It looks like Finley potentially is out, but this run game for Green Bay has been pretty much off the chain. How do you think they're going to defend against this?
Well, you mean as far as the Bears stopping the Packers' running game?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is the Bears, even when the Packers would have a great running game, the Bears have trouble stopping it sometimes, even as good a defense as they've been. Yeah, I think Eddie Lacy presents a huge challenge for the Bears because he just makes Aaron Rodgers that much better. And this defense is going to have enough problems just defending Aaron Rodgers without worrying about a run game that they've never really had to worry about as much. So I think it's going to make it really tough. That's why I say the key to this game is keeping the Aaron Rodgers and the Packers offense off the field. If they're on the field for more than half the game, the Bears are not going to win. I don't think.
So does that mean more of a commitment to running Forte and also getting Michael Bush out on the field, who really hasn't seen a lot of playing time at all?
Well, I'll tell you, they don't seem too enamored with Michael Bush, but they do like Matt Forte. It'll be interesting to see how they do it, because normally you would think, they need to control. They don't want to dominate the clock without trying to score. They don't want to play that game where they just try and control the clock. They want to play. They have an offense even without Jay Cutler that should be able to score against the Packers. So they're going to use the run basically like they always do, which is to set up a passing game and use a passing game to set up the run and just run their offense. And when they get an opportunity to score, they're going to go for it. They're not going to try and milk the clock. I guess that's kind of the issue. I don't see them doing that. I think they really want to score some points, and I think they want to win a shootout. I think that the Bears feel like they can do that at this time with Green Bay. It's about time that they at least feel that way.
When McCown obviously had to get in the mix, he didn't look bad. Obviously, he's taken all the first team snaps. How is he looking in regards with receivers? Brandon Marshall pretty much went out and said that he feels comfortable, obviously, working with McCown. How has he looked with the first team now that he finally got some reps under his belt?
No, I actually think they're in good shape there. They're in much better shape with Josh McCown a quarterback than they were 2 years ago when he came into the last two games of the season. I mean, the supporting cast is much better. I just think their offensive line is much better. The last time Josh McCown played against the Packers, he was not sacked at all, and I think that's a tribute to Josh McCown. In fact, that's the only time since Cutler has come here that a Bears quarterback has not been sacked against the Packers. I think that and the fact that the Bears offensive line is better gives Josh McCown a much better chance of succeeding. In fact, I think you can make the argument, based on the way Cutler's played up in Green Bay, especially in those primetime games, you can make the argument that McCown actually in this instance gives them a better chance to win, because he's not going to make the mistakes that Jay Cutler does, because Jay Cutler takes more chances because he's got that big arm and stuff like that, and Josh McCown does not. So I think with the weapons around him, I would argue, I think you could argue that they actually have a better chance to win this game, because they won't make those mistakes that create the kind of momentum that the Packers just bury them with up there. If you've ever watched those games, you know what I'm talking about.
Michael Carter-Williams looking like Michael Myers last night on the Bulls. It was quite ugly there. He was the best point guard on the floor last night.
He looked really good. Okay. I need to put this in perspective for people, because I'm by no means I'm in freak out mode about what I've seen in this first week of NBA action. I'm not. I mean, if you look at standings right now, right now in the Bulls division, Indiana has gone 3-0, Detroit's 2-1, the Bulls are 1-2. Now, if you look at teams that are struggling, like if you look at teams that you expect coming out the gate to dominate, like your Miamis, you expect more from the Bulls, even from OKC, it's a couple of things you got to take in perspective, even with the Nets. One, either you've got someone coming back from injury, which means they're reintegrating themselves back into now game time action, and or there's been some new acquisitions, like in the case of the Nets, where that team has to find some synchronicity together. They're not cohesive at this point. So the NBA season is not the 100-yard dash. It's a relay race. It's 82 games. So just because your team doesn't look good coming out the gates doesn't mean anybody should hit the panic button, because there are things that have to be worked out. So even right now, the 76ers has stunned Miami. They stunned the Bulls. They're 3-0. They look good. They're young. New coach. A lot of different changes. It doesn't mean down the stretch that team is going to dominate.
Okay. All that is very true. But with the Bulls, like long-term goals, aspirations, predictions for this team, a lot of people are thinking, they can perhaps give Miami some go in the East, whatever. This team, looking at them, they have the same problem they've had for the whole Derrick Rose era. Well, except for the first year when they had Ben Gordon, but they just were young and they had some problems in other areas. They had a two that could score then, but they don't have an athletic scoring two. And that's going to be the thing that's going to kill them, and it's going to keep them they'll win about 60 games. They might wind up with the best record in the East anyway whenever Derrick Rose finally gets it going. But all it's going to do is fool stupid Bulls fans. The stupid ones. All of them are stupid. But the ones that constantly sit on whatever social media or you walk around and talk to them on the street and say, yeah, the Bulls are better than the Heat. And when the Heat blow the Bulls off the floor, they blame the refs. It's always the refs' fault when the Bulls lose to the Heat.
Oh, okay,
I'm sick and tired of hearing that crap.
Right. People have to take the good with the bad. What's interesting about this Bulls team, here's something that's happened that to me kind of will make the season interesting if it can be consistent. And that Miami Heat game, Carlos Boozer was a reason it wasn't an absolute blowout. Now, mind you, that's the first time probably in the duration that Carlos Boozer has been with the Bulls that his value and what you expect for him to at least be maybe a 2010 guy came to fruition. I mean, it started last year in the absence of Derrick Rose. And what's important for me, especially let's say in this first half of the season, these first 20-plus games, is that for all the development that happened last year with Boozer, with Butler, with everybody stepping up and being able to score, they cannot take a back seat. One, I'm happy to see that's not the case. That actually, while Derrick Rose is struggling, as a matter of fact, he's trying to do too much too soon. He's not letting the game come to him. He's trying to force the issue. When they run, right now, running the offense through Boozer has not been a bad thing. Now, here's the big issue I'm having right now with them offensively. Put your bigs in the paint and stop asking them to step out and doing, 15 and 17-foot jumpers. Not necessary. They need to get in the paint. I don't want to see Noah back up at the top of the key doing anything. Get him in the paint. They're compromising too much there. They're not being physical there. I mean, there's a reason why you put Jimmy Butler out as your 2. And actually, Jimmy's had some decent games. But the bottom line is they're going to have to make some adjustments. And I don't know why Tibbs keeps keeping his bigs out of the paint. It makes no sense to me. And they're struggling with that. And that's something, granted, we know that Boozer is not necessarily an in-the-paint player, but I will say this. This is the best he's looked since he's been with the Bulls.